Today is Monday, June 21st, 2010, and we're at the Community Media Center Express Studio. And it is my pleasure to be interviewing Ms. Barb Patterson and for our oral history project. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself, Barbara.
Where shall I begin?
How about where were you born?
Okay, I was born in Charleston, West Virginia.
Okay.
On July the 9th, a few years back.
Okay. You don't want to tell me how many years back it was?
As of today,
Okay.
it's 72.
Okay.
This time
Wow.
next month, it'll be 73.
Fantastic.
And so we lived there for a while, and it was actually when I was in the 4th grade. We were still living actually in South Charleston at that time. When I was in the 4th grade when I got my first musical instrument.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes.
And what was that?
It was a clarinet, and came from Montgomery Ward.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember it being under the tree, and it was put together, and I go over to pick it up and play it, and I couldn't get a sound out.
Oh.
Well, the cap was still on the mouthpiece.
Oh, no.
So I got that figured out, but that was the beginning of my musical career.
And you've been playing reed instruments ever since, haven't you?
Ever since.
Ever since. So you were, what, 9 years old? Probably?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, 4th grade?
Yeah,
That's about
they
right.
didn't have kindergarten then.
Mm-hmm.
We started in the 1st grade, so that was 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
The high school band director had interviewed several of the elementary school kids, talked with them, looked at them, and suggested an instrument that they might be successful with.
Sure.
And that's what he said, and so that started it all.
Well, you've been very successful with yours, because you're still playing today, are you not?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Still
Playing
am.
Alto saxophone?
Alto saxophone.
And loving it.
Loving it, yes, absolutely.
Isn't that great? So, let's see, you were born in West Virginia. What did you do for entertainment as a little girl? What kind of games did you play? What kind
You
of
mean
things
like elementary school age?
Yeah.
We played in the dirt with the little cars and trucks. I remember playing marbles. I have a brother that's 2 years older than I am, and of course I always tagged along after him, which he did not appreciate, but I remember playing those games. There was some kind of a game with a penknife.
Yes, Mumbly Peg.
Okay.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I don't think I was much for dolls.
Yeah. Sound like a tomboy.
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Still am, I guess.
That's fine. Now, did you grow up in the city or the country or in a town or?
Well, it was South Charleston, West Virginia. It was in an apartment complex.
Oh, okay.
Lots of kids there. And
so you had lots of kids to play with.
yeah, lots of kids to play with. And then when I was in the 6th grade, we moved to Oak Hill, West Virginia, which is a town. It's not a city.
Right.
And was there from then on until I went off to college and then went off to teach.
So you were in middle school and high school in the town then?
Junior high school.
Junior high.
And high school.
Okay.
Played in the band. And the summer between 7th grade, 7th grade and 8th grade, my grandmother and I went to Oregon on a Greyhound bus because her son was out there.
Okay. Wow.
And my dad was concerned about it from the standpoint that if I didn't take private lessons during that summer, would I still be in the band?
No
That was his big
kidding.
concern about the trip. So, of course, band director said yes. And then a couple years after that, the band director asked me if I would learn to play the oboe for concert band.
Which is not
I
easy.
did. No,
That's not an easy instrument to play.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But I did.
Good.
And I remember buying reeds for the instruments at the local general store.
Which sold everything.
Which sold everything, including reeds.
Interesting. I guess if they didn't have something in stock, they could order it
Oh,
for
yeah.
you.
Yeah, they would order it.
And they knew that you were a good customer, so they probably stocked up
Yeah.
on boxes of
Well,
reeds for you.
And my dad was a businessman in
Mhm.
town, and everybody knew everybody in that town.
It was a different world, wasn't it?
Sure was.
Yeah.
Sure was.
Now, how big of a class? You were in 6th grade, 7th grade. How
Mhm.
large were your classes then? How?
In the 6th and 7th grade,
Mhm.
oh my.
About how many
Well,
classmates did
I
you
can't
have?
tell you, in junior high,
Right.
in my high school graduating class,
Mhm.
it was close to 300. I
Well,
can
that's
tell
a
you that.
Good size.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good size.
But you still
so-
knew everybody. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
somehow you did.
Yeah. Mhm.
Hmm.
Very interesting.
Some better than others, you
Sure.
know, but
Of course. Yeah.
everybody kind of knew everybody.
Yeah. Now, your trip to Oregon. How long did it take you to go out to Oregon on a Greyhound bus?
Oh, I guess it took about a week,
Mm-hmm.
and we were out there for a month.
Wow. Okay. So you got a
Mhm.
chance to be out there and see a lot of that country. I bet it's a lot different
Yeah.
than it was in West Virginia.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was a wonderful experience.
I bet. Yeah. Now, were you right on the coast, or were you in
Portland.
Okay. So you got to see
Portland.
the ocean then.
Hmm.
A little bit.
Yeah, and we took
Well,
a
the
trip,
river.
a day trip up into Washington.
Mm-hmm.
We were close enough to do that. We got within about 30 miles of the California
Right.
border. We didn't get down into
Yeah.
California.
What a great experience for somebody that was, well, you were probably 12 or
Oh,
13
yeah.
years old. Yeah.
I remember being, I think it was Mount Rainier.
Mm-hmm.
We took a trip up there, and I have pictures of that. And there I am in my dress and my shoes and socks,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a big pile of snow over here, short sleeves, you know.
No
It
kidding.
was really warm up there,
And
even though
we're
it was
talking
snow.
summertime.
summertime.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
What a great trip for somebody that's just coming of age. How
Absolutely.
fascinating. Yeah. And you got to see the big woods out there.
Yes.
Some
Mhm.
huge trees, some huge woods out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you as a youngster, you got to travel basically all the way across the country
All the
and
way
all the
across
way
country.
back. Yeah. On a bus.
On a bus with my grandmother.
Yes. How fascinating. You got to experience something that a lot of Americans don't get to experience in their entire lifetime. And nowadays we get on a plane, and so we miss everything. You got to see the country.
Oh yeah, it would take about maybe 4 or 5 hours now
Mhm.
to get there.
Right.
It took us 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. So you'd stop in a different city each evening and have your
Mhm.
dinner and then start
Mhm.
up again the next morning. I guess you did a lot of driving during the night, did you?
Oh yeah,
They just
yeah.
kept
We
going.
didn't spend the night anywhere.
Okay. Yeah.
We were always on the bus. They would stop for us to eat,
Mhm.
but
Boy, that's a
kept
hard
on
way
going.
to travel, though, isn't it?
I thought it was wonderful.
I bet you did.
I didn't know it was hard. Might have been hard on my grandmother, but
What an exciting experience.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you came back to West Virginia after your whirlwind summer
Yes.
and graduated from high school and went on to college. Where'd you go to
Yes.
college?
Shenandoah Conservatory of Music,
Mm-hmm.
which is now in Winchester. When I went there, it was in Dayton, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
My senior year, they auctioned off the school.
No kidding.
The band played,
Mm-hmm.
and they auctioned off the buildings, the practice rooms, equipment,
Amazing.
and then the next year, classes started in Winchester.
Winchester. Now, was that the year you graduated, though? You graduated from Dayton. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
graduate. I was the last
Yeah,
class.
Okay.
In fact, we just had our 50th reunion
No
last
kidding.
month. Mhm.
No kidding.
Mhm.
Wow. Did you perform at the reunion?
I had to speak at the reunion.
Did you really? That
well,
was great.
they asked me to, you know,
Mhm.
just to reminisce a little bit about
Sure.
when we were in school.
Yeah.
One other thing I'll say about high school, which was a big highlight for me, I got to play with the United States Navy Band.
Did you?
I did.
As
You
a
know-
soloist?
No,
Okay.
no, just as a student.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of times when the military bands perform, they will have students from
Mhm.
the area come out play.
Sure.
with them.
Yeah.
But we had to drive about 90 miles to get to the concert because it was in Huntington, West Virginia, which is, I guess, about 80 or 90 miles from Oak Hill.
Mm-hmm. That was a long trip then.
Yeah, but that was wonderful for
I
me.
bet. Yeah. You actually
Yeah.
performed with the Navy Band.
Perform with the Navy
How
Band.
exciting that must have been.
Oh, it was,
Yeah.
definitely.
Now, did you get the music in advance? Did you have a chance to
No.
practice a little bit?
No.
You just went in and played?
Just went in and played.
Wow.
Hmm.
I bet you were beside yourself.
No, I was.
I bet. How exciting that must have been.
I remember there were like 2 or 3 carloads of seniors from the
Mhm.
band
Right.
that got to go.
Yeah. Now, all
So-
students that you already knew. I mean, these are other
Yeah.
students in your band.
Yeah.
Wow. What a great experience that must have been.
Yeah, it was.
Fantastic. So, you went through 4 years at
Shenandoah. I got
Shenandoah,
a scholarship,
mm-hmm.
4 years, and then actually I didn't go to college right out of high school. I worked a year,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went, which was probably pretty good. I was a year older and
Sure. A
was
little more
dying
mature.
to get out of town.
I bet. Now, what did you do for that year? What kind of
Well,
work?
my mom and dad owned a print shop and
Mhm.
office supply store.
Okay.
And my mom basically ran the office supply store and dad ran the print shop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my senior year in April, my mother died of cancer.
Oh,
And I had 2 little sisters at home. They were
Mhm.
5 and 7.
mm-hmm.
And Dad just needed somebody
Sure.
there, to help out, especially at the shop.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked a year.
Yeah.
Actually, halfway through the year, he said he didn't need me anymore because his brother was coming into business with him.
Okay.
So that sort of left me out in the cold.
Mhm.
But I got a job at the newspaper office in town,
Mm-hmm.
just doing, well, for one thing, I was in charge of the obituaries.
No kidding.
And that job lasted 2 or 3 months, and then I learned that there was an opening at the local radio TV station for a
Mhm.
receptionist.
Mhm.
So I applied for that and got that. So I did that for a while.
Wow.
So I did all that before I went to college.
So by the time you'd gone to college, you'd already had 3 careers
That's right.
in 1 year. Yeah. So you were the oldest of.
No,
your,
my brother,
your brother was 2 years older than
he's
you.
2 years older,
And then you had two
Then 2 sisters who
Okay.
Were 5 and 7 at the
Mhm.
time that
Now,
my
did
mother
you
had passed away.
sort of take care of them?
I did, although my grandmother still lived with us.
Oh, okay.
She lived with us most of our life.
Mm-hmm.
It's my dad's mother.
Yeah.
I think he mainly needed somebody to help out at the store until
Mhm.
he got somebody else or
Mhm.
until I stayed there forever.
Sure. Okay. So when you graduated from Shenandoah Conservatory,
Mhm.
what was your degree in?
Well, it was a BME degree, which is Bachelor of Music Education.
Mm-hmm.
And,
So you were qualified to teach.
oh yeah, qualified to teach.
Mm-hmm.
I got a job in Virginia, in Salem, Virginia.
Mhm.
Brand new high school.
Wow.
I was to teach chorus and band.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was better than nothing. However, about a week after I had accepted that job, I got another offer for a junior high school.
Mm.
So I wrote the school in Salem, or the Board of Education,
Mm-hmm.
asked for a release from my
Mhm.
contract,
Mm-hmm.
told them exactly why,
Right.
and they granted it.
Okay.
So I ended up teaching in Hampton, Virginia, at Buckrow Beach Junior
Mhm.
High School
No kidding.
for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting. They had uniforms and they marched in the local parades and at football games.
Wow.
And that
How-
was fun.
How large was the band?
I would say 50 or 60.
Mm-hmm.
It was junior high, so it was 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Mm-hmm.
They started playing an instrument in the 7th grade.
No kidding.
They didn't have it in elementary school. So I had to start beginners
Right.
as well as the advanced group.
Mhm.
And
It's almost like having a one-room schoolhouse. And you were teaching everything then.
well, they claimed that a 7th grader is going to learn twice as fast anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But, you've got to practice.
Absolutely.
You can't make up for 3 years practice in
That's
1
right.
year. But
That's right.
But it worked out, and they were good groups.
Mm-hmm.
And it was enjoyable. Had all beginners at the same time. Doesn't matter what instrument you're playing.
Yeah.
You're all in that class at the same
Okay.
time.
Good. So you taught the basics of music, and then I guess you had sectionals with the different individuals to help them
Yes.
along. Right.
Yes.
And then you had your concert band and your marching band.
Yes.
Okay. Orchestra? Did you do any of orchestra?
No,
No
we didn't have
strings.
strings.
Okay. Just regular band.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you did that for 4 years.
Did that for 4 years. And then I decided I wanted to get a master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
So a friend of mine was at West Virginia University, and I talked with, he was working on a master's, and I talked with him about the program, and he recommended it highly. So I auditioned for an assistantship, which I got. And I took out my retirement from teaching, 4 years,
Wow.
and off to graduate school I went.
Used that to pay for your graduate school, which was a smart move, all things considered.
Yes.
Because you then
Yes.
had a better degree.
And actually, later on, when I was thinking of retiring from Carroll County schools, I bought back that retirement that I had taken out. I had the opportunity to do that, which was good also.
Absolutely, sure.
But it was a good use of that retirement money, too, because that was important. It was important because, for several reasons. You get paid more if you have a master's degree.
That's correct.
I was just hungry for learning. And I met my husband there.
There you go.
So
3 good reasons.
3 good reasons, yeah.
Absolutely.
And they all worked out.
Yeah, and you're still learning.
Oh,
You're the
yeah.
kind of person that never stops.
No.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Musicians have
Yes.
to work pretty hard to keep up.
Yeah.
I like to think of us running as fast as we can just to stay right where we are. Because there's a lot of competition out there.
It sure is.
Yeah. So, you then came to Carroll County. What year would this have been?
This was in '65.
Okay.
Now, my husband had already been here a year, and so that's why I came here. There was an opening. It was Westminster Junior High School.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. Now, so you had already met your husband. You were already married. You were in West Virginia. Is that where you met?
West Virginia University. Yeah, he was living in Baltimore. His parents had just moved to Baltimore, I think. He had taught for 4 years. I think it was Moorfield, West Virginia. So he was kind of in between things too. But we met in '64 in graduate school. I stayed the 4 semesters to get my degree. He came back here and taught,
Right.
and then came back the following summer, and we were married the following summer. And then I came here. Phil Royer was the supervisor of music then,
Okay.
and he was the one that more or less hired me. George Thomas had been principal at Westminster Junior High, but then he became superintendent. And Vic Makovich then was my principal there. Now, the first year I taught at Westminster Junior High, New Windsor Junior High, New Windsor Elementary, and Sandy Mount Elementary.
Wow. That's a lot of territory to cover.
That's a lot of territory.
Yeah, because you had just come from a situation where for 4 years you had taught at one school.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you're teaching at 4 schools.
Now I'm traveling.
Wow. How did your schedule run? How did that work?
Not very good.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was at Westminster Junior High 3 days a week, and probably New Windsor twice a week, or maybe a day and a half, because it was elementary and junior high. And then Sandy Mount, I think, was a half day a week.
Did your husband ever get to see you?
Yeah.
Sometimes I guess you guys felt like 2 ships passing in the night.
Well, at times, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because it's intense to be a teacher. It's a lot of work to teach. And you had a lot of students, I imagine, with 4 schools.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge amount when I started, but it grew quite a bit.
Music is very popular.
So I ended up teaching at Westminster Junior High full-time. I had 3 bands, an orchestra, and a jazz band, and then we had sectionals.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that's what evolved out of that
Sure.
first job I had.
Amazing. And so how long did you teach in Carroll County, Barbara?
30 years,
30 years.
and then 4 in Virginia.
What would you say is your most memorable achievement in Carroll County? Or is there one thing that stands out? Maybe there's several things that stand out.
Well, there's more than one.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I was teaching at the junior high, Westminster Junior High, I had some excellent ninth grade students. I mean, they just kind of blew me away with what they had accomplished and the level they had achieved just being in the ninth grade.
Right.
Another highlight was at Sandy Mountain Elementary. I taught there in the beginning, and then I wasn't there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I finished teaching junior high, let's say, I went back to I went to elementary. And at Sandy Mount, I ended up one year at Christmas, for our Christmas concert.
Mm-hmm.
The total number of students I had on that program were 90.
Wow.
Which included the advanced students and
Sure.
the beginners. And I thought that was a pretty good accomplishment.
I would say.
Yeah.
That's a huge group of students.
That was a huge group.
Wow.
I think another accomplishment was the jazz band that I had at Westminster Elementary, which was quite a few years later. The caliber at which those kids could play. I had a drummer that was fantastic. I mean, for a fifth grader, he was just unreal.
You know, it's amazing the level of musicianship in Carroll County. I don't know what it's about, but you just find so many very competent musicians. But when you're talking about jazz in an elementary school, jazz is a complicated art. And there are a lot of high school students and colleges where musicians don't get it. To be able to pull that off in elementary school is quite an accomplishment.
It was, and it was great. It was great. And actually, I had some students who were asked to go to Maryland Music Educators Association for a demonstration. Now, this was not solely the jazz band. Some of those kids were in it. I think I took about 10, and I had a couple of string players. And to demonstrate improvisation. And we had a few classes on it.
Right.
First, Joe Briscuso, who taught at Towson at the time, came over and worked with the kids some. And then we went to the MMEA convention, and the kids got to demonstrate their improv skills.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So did you have like a combo set up so that the students could come in and do solo work, or?
No, actually it was just about 10 kids on various instruments, and we worked mainly with like a B-flat blues scale. And
Okay.
we just worked around that.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, have you kept up with any of the kids, any of the students that you had? Do you know what they've gone on to do?
I did for a while. I can't tell you. Well, one student I had at Mechanicsville. I taught in 9 different schools in the county over the years. One student I had at Mechanicsville now is principal oboist with the Naples Symphony in Naples, Florida. Wow. Now, she was only here a couple of years. Actually, her dad owned a local music store here. It was Christie Music, and then it became Coffee Music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And her mother, both of her parents were musicians. Her mother taught Suzuki violin classes in the county, too.
Wow.
But this little girl, she, I remember one time at Mechanicsville, I think I was teaching her a lesson after school, and I don't know how this came about, but I went over to the piano, and I said, Judy, can you tell me what note this is? And, oh yeah, that's a B-flat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So I go to the extremes on the piano, which sometimes don't even sound like a particular pitch.
Yeah.
She could tell me any note I played on that piano.
So this child had perfect pitch.
She had perfect pitch.
Wow, that's a great skill to have if you're going to be an oboe player.
Oh yeah, Yeah.
Yes.
Or a trombone player.
Or a trombone player. Now let's talk about trombone players for a second. You're a saxophone player, and your husband plays trumpet, right?
Right.
Okay. I know you have a son who plays trombone.
Yes.
So you were just talking about a young lady who had both parents who were musicians, and that kind of encouragement helps the children of a musical family to achieve as well. I've heard your son play trombone, and he does right. He is a fine trombonist. He plays very well.
He would not be that accomplished if it weren't for his father, who encouraged him quite strong.
Encouraged him.
Yes.
With a capital E.
Yes, because to this day, our son does not like to practice. Never has, never will.
Practice is not easy. Playing is
But
fun.
He has some natural ability because he could not do what he does if he didn't have it.
Yeah, he's got a fine talent. I love to hear him play.
Yeah. And our daughter played also. She played clarinet.
Okay.
Played all through high school. Went to Patterson, played in the band over there all 4 years.
Yeah.
Loves music, but she doesn't do anything with it now.
Yeah, a lot of us get away as adults. We
Yeah.
get away from playing.
Yeah, well,
The
she's
lucky
got,
ones are the ones that stay with it.
Yeah. She's got 2 young girls. She played in the Sousa band for a while, but then she got married, had children, and although I will say this on her behalf, she and her oldest daughter, who is 7, will be 8 next month, both auditioned for Gypsy, and they're in it.
No kidding. That's great.
Lori was in drama in high school and was quite good, and actually she has a nice singing voice, but she never did much with it.
Right.
But they're going to be in the musical this year,
Sounds like
September song.
Yeah, sounds like she still has the passion though.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think I've seen her daughter perform before. Didn't they do something
yes,
at
my daughter was on the program too.
Yes.
They performed on the Christmas program.
Yeah, you had the whole family
Big
there.
band,
It
yes.
was like seeing the
All the
Patterson
grandkids.
family. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
They did a great job.
Okay, so you worked for the school system for 30 years, and then you retired. But
Yes.
But you didn't stop playing, did you?
Oh no.
Okay. Tell me
No, I
about
didn't.
that. Since you've been retired, what?
Oh my gosh, what have I done since I retired? Well, I've played in the Sousa band all but 1 year. I played clarinet for many years, and then I developed a little bit of arthritis, and it was difficult playing the clarinet. So I switched to saxophone. So I play saxophone in the Sousa band. Of course, play in the big band, Merry Christmas band.
Right.
Play saxophone in that. I played in the Carroll Hamilton Orchestra for several years, saxophone.
Now, didn't your
clarinet.
husband sing in that orchestra?
Yeah, he sang
Right.
and played.
Yeah.
And now we have the Never Too Late band at Carroll Lutheran Village.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that a great group?
It is. It is a great group. I've never felt so comfortable in a group as I do with the people who play in that band.
Yeah, it's a wonderful group of musicians. They're just, there's the fellowship is just so amazing. Everybody likes each other, and regardless of what their level of musicianship is, but they sound good together, and everybody seems to get along, and you're not afraid to say whatever is on your mind.
No,
And
it's
sometimes you hear some interesting things said. But we do have a good time, don't we?
we do have a good time.
And the band sounds very good. It's very well received by the community.
I think so too.
Yeah. So I guess you're just not going to stop playing then, are you?
Not until I have to.
Okay.
Not until somebody says, you sound horrible.
Well,
Then I
that's
will.
that's not going to happen anytime soon, because
Well.
I've heard you play and you sound great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the future is bright for Barbara Patterson.
I'm going to keep on going.
You have 2 children, and how many grandchildren?
4.
4 grandchildren.
3 girls and a boy.
And they look like budding thespians themselves, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think they can be.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can be.
They certainly don't seem to be afraid of standing in front of an audience.
No, and
Yeah.
that surprises me.
Yeah.
Because I was always pretty timid, and not that I expected them to be exactly like me, but
Right.
just the thought of it. But No, they were primed on that Christmas program, and they
No
had
stage
no
fright at all. They
hesitation.
just got up there and did it.
Yeah.
Your one granddaughter basically took the stage, it seemed, and like she owned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because they're so young. They haven't learned to be afraid yet, or
Well, that's a good thing.
You know?
They're getting their experience now, so that by the time they
They
figure
never
it out,
will.
that they're supposed to be afraid, they'll already be past that. I
Well,
know the
our-
first
our-
time I got on the stage, I was terrified.
oh, I know,
Yeah.
me too. Even just, I can remember in high school, on concerts,
Mm-hmm.
I would be so nervous that my heart, it was actually pounding so hard it was moving my whole body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm glad the other ones aren't like that. I was going to say that Lori's two girls
Mm-hmm.
have been doing dance.
Okay.
They've been taking dance lessons. The older one, it'll be, she completed 4 years, and the younger one completed her second or third year. And then the other two, my son's two, his daughter especially is musically inclined. She's taking piano lessons, but
Good.
she and her brother are also into soccer.
Okay.
So they're very
So
busy.
They're probably loving life right now with the World Cup going on.
I don't know if they're watching that or not. You know, I don't know if Molly Cyrus has outdone the
Mhm.
World Soccer Cup or
Okay.
not.
Well, they'll grow out of that too. Yeah.
Oh, and their dad takes them to the Capitals games.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Good.
what are they called? The DC United? Is that the
I think so.
hockey team?
Yeah.
He's a big hockey fan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Barbara, you've taught a lot of students in Carroll County. In
Oh,
30
yeah.
years, I bet you've seen thousands of students, and you've influenced so many children and adults in the love of music. Do you have any advice for young students that are starting off today? Maybe they're thinking about getting an instrument and learning how to play. They see other people doing it, and they want to aspire to be a musician themselves. What advice would you give?
My advice would be everybody, every child should learn to play some instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have the opportunity to maybe go with it,
Mm-hmm.
or just the opportunity to understand a little bit more what goes on when they hear other people playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have advice for parents too. To the parents, I would say, you know, be very encouraging. Don't say negative things.
Mm-hmm.
Help them learn how to practice
Mhm.
correctly. You know, not sit down and practice for a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
But I had told my kids that when you practice, you know, you just practice till you get tired. Lay your instrument down. Don't put it away,
Mm-hmm.
because you'll be more inclined to come in and pick it
Pick
up
it up again. Sure.
and play a little bit more. You
Mhm.
know, just put it down
Yeah.
and not make it a stressful time,
Mm-hmm.
but an enjoyable time.
So you're not one of those people that says that you have to practice a half an hour or an hour or an hour and a half every day. You sound like you're the kind of person that says little bites of practice time are better than one whole big chunk, and quality is more important than quantity.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and enjoyment.
Mm-hmm. It's all about having a good time,
Yeah.
isn't it?
If they
Yeah.
don't enjoy it, they're not going to want to stick with it.
Right. Fantastic. And we have a lot of opportunities now that I know you and I probably didn't have. As a trombone player, there wasn't a lot of repertoire out there. I didn't have a lot of records that I could listen to, or a lot of music that I could listen to that trombone players had. I think I had 1 or 2 albums, and I wore them out listening to the same songs over and over again. And today, kids have the internet and YouTube and smart music and all kinds of ways to get information about their instrument and to hear other people play it. So
Yeah.
that's very helpful too.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful thing that the Arts Council is doing too, to provide instruments for families.
You're
who-
talking about the musical instrument bank?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a little bit about that? How does that work?
I'm not exactly sure. What I know is that the Arts Council accepts instruments that people donate to
Mhm.
them,
Okay.
and they get them fixed up if they need to be fixed
Mhm.
up. And I assume, I know in the beginning, the band directors, I think, or the instrumental music teachers would submit names of kids who are, they might say they need a particular instrument for a particular child who couldn't.
Sure.
I don't know the details of it right now. It's been going on for quite some time.
I understand that they've had hundreds of instruments that were in people's closets, just sitting home, that have been donated through the Arts Council to the music bank. They are refurbished and then they go out to students so that they can perform in the bands. So they're giving the instruments a second chance, and they're giving the students, in some cases, a first chance to learn whether they really have the desire to learn, but to see if they have the talent and the passion to really keep up with it.
And there's nothing like that when I was growing up.
No.
Probably not when you were growing up either.
Well, you got your first clarinet from Montgomery Ward's.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty remarkable. Musical instruments are very expensive now, and so there's another thing that a family with a modest income could probably not afford. And if you're talking something that's a little larger on the scale of, say, a sousaphone or a tuba or something like that, you're talking big bucks. They're very expensive. And so
most of those larger instruments are furnished by the school.
By the schools, right? Yeah.
But I think most of the time too, the kids who play those instruments started on something else.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah. And then they discover that they've got a talent, and they've got a passion, and the band director sees that there's a possibility there, and they encourage them to get into another instrument. Now, you don't just play music, though. You do some other things in the community, don't you, Barbara?
Well, I volunteer at Access Carroll,
Okay.
which is a healthcare facility for the uninsured, low-income people of Carroll County. I volunteer there, and I've been doing that. I think this is my 5th year.
It's a great program.
Oh yeah, there's such a need for it.
They help a lot of people. And you're in the process of a capital campaign, are you not?
Yes.
You're working to move to the old
new
Wheeler.
facility.
It used to be the museum, didn't it? It used to be the
Yes,
museum.
well, it was a furniture store before that. In fact, I think a couple of furniture stores have been in there. But yes, there was a museum in there, a car museum.
Right.
And I think we're looking at the lower level.
Right. So you're going to outfit that with rooms for patients and waiting areas, and you've got plenty of parking there, so that would make it really nice.
Yes. Of course, a lot of our clients don't drive.
Right.
But it is centrally located,
Sure.
you know,
They can certainly walk
in
there.
town,
Right.
which helps.
Yeah. It's certainly going to be more space than you currently have. I mean, I'm not going to say you've outgrown your space, but
We
the
have outgrown
need
the
is
space.
so huge in the community. You've certainly taken great advantage of your space. I can't believe how many patients you've had come through the Access Carroll small suite of offices and get wonderful care basically on a shoestring. I mean, all the doctor services are basically volunteered. It's a volunteer organization pretty much,
Yes, it is,
primarily.
pretty much.
Yeah.
There are a few paid employees, which you have to have,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
But the list of volunteers is phenomenal.
It is.
Mhm.
It is. And the
Doctors, nurses, clerical work, you know, whatever you can do.
And the number of people that you've impacted is phenomenal as well in our community.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's a wonderful thing that you do. So I can't think of a better organization that you could have picked to volunteer for, because they certainly do a lot of good things in this
I
community.
just thought it was such a wonderful idea when I first read about it, right after it started.
Yeah. So you stay real active in the community.
I try to.
That's a good thing. Yeah. Well, you'll never get old that way. You always stay
I
young.
hope not.
Yeah. Good. Well, any other advice for students or parents before we leave, Barbara?
No, I would say for parents, aside from the advice about the musical part of their life, you know, just to stay close to your kids and your grandkids, and express the importance of family time together.
It's so short.
Yep.
It's such a short time. And times are not as easy as they used to be. You know, they talk about the good old days and how nice it was. Well, the good old days were not all that good if you had to go back to them. There were some tough times.
Oh, yeah.
But we seem to have been more connected in those older times than we do today. Even though we have things like the internet and cell phones and all these ways to talk and communicate and text, we don't seem to be as connected as we used to be.
I think we are, my husband and I, I think we're more connected with our kids because of those advantages than when I was a kid, not growing up, but right after I left home and connecting with the family.
Okay.
I mean, you had to pay for long distance calls,
That's
you
true,
know,
yeah.
and that wasn't inexpensive in those days. So actually, it's much easier to stay connected these days. So there's no excuse for
Right.
not.
So as long as we take advantage of it. So it
Right.
sounds to me like you're one of the grandparents, and I'm not going to say that all grandparents are like this, but you're one of the ones who have embraced technology. So you have a computer in your house, and you know how to use the internet, and you know how to use a cell phone, and you see the advantages of that. You say, well,
Yes.
I want to learn this, and I want to use it to be more connected with my family, to make it easier for them and easier for me too.
Yes.
So there you're giving good advice by setting a good example, and so that's very interesting. It took me years to convince my father to get a computer, and now I can't get him off it, and that's a wonderful thing because now he emails. But I know that there's a reluctance in a lot of people our age that children today, they're so used to it. I mean, it's just something that they've had in grade school from the very beginning. Computers are just a natural part of life, along with video games and television and everything else. But, you know, you and I grew up at a time when everybody didn't have a telephone. Nobody had a computer. And so we've seen the evolution of those things. I'm sure when you were a little girl, there were many families that didn't have television sets. And so,
That's right.
yeah. And so we've seen a lot of evolution in our time of technology. And it's wonderful that you embrace that.
When our kids were in middle school, I believe it was, we bought an Apple IIe computer and fooled around with that for a couple of years. Well, after I retired from teaching, I took 2 or 3 classes at the community college concerning the computer because I just wanted to know more about it and what it could do. And of course, I still can't do 3/4 of the things that the computer can do, but I'm not interested in those 3/4 things either. I'm just interested in what I do.
It's fascinating to see children with the computers and how quickly they can pick the things up that you and I probably struggle with to try to figure out, well, how do I make this work? But they are fascinating, and they can theoretically save us time, although sometimes you wonder if they do.
Well, you can spend an awful lot of time on them doing nothing or trying to figure out how to do something. But once I got over the fear of the fact that it was not going to blow up if I hit a wrong key, then I experimented a whole lot more, and that's how I learned a lot.
And learned a lot. Now, do you have plans to continue learning? Are you thinking about going to school?
The only thing I would do would be the extended learning classes, I think it's called. You know, I don't want to take any more tests. I do not want to have to study. I only want to study if I want to.
Okay.
And if I took any more classes, it would probably be with the digital photography and printing pictures and that sort of thing. I took several of those classes too, and if I took any more, it would probably be in that area.
So you like to take photography?
Yes, that's my hobby now.
Okay. Any particular style of photographs that you take? Is it family pictures or?
Well, first started out with flowers. But then, excuse me, and then the grandkids came along. Well, they are perfect subjects, you know.
Yes, they are.
They won't be much longer because they are not still long enough anymore. But now it's just anything, everything, you know. I've been concentrating on this bird's nest. up in a hole in a tree that we have that the woodpecker made the hole.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not, these birds are not woodpeckers or
Right.
something else, I don't know what. So I've been taking pictures of the two sticking their head out and the mother coming and feeding them.
Mhm.
You know, it was just
Sure.
seemed like a good subject.
Absolutely.
So whatever pops up, that's
Mhm. Fantastic. So it sounds like you're never going to stop learning,
I hope not.
and you're
I
never
hope
going
not.
to stop creating. Art and
I hope
music
not.
are tied together, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, the creative elements are just so wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Barbara, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with me today for this interview. I've learned quite a lot. It's been very enjoyable, and I'm sure that whoever watches this will learn something as well. So
I
thank
hope
you,
so.
thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jim.
Take care.